I take a week off filming videos and it's like I've forgotten how to film a video. Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new Sims 4 video. We're back doing a commentary video. Think of this as kind of like a part 2 to my Sims 4 and overconsumption video, except we're going to be delving into the new expansion pack that has been announced. And it's been met with some very mixed reviews, so let's begin. So if you are unfamiliar and you're yet to see, the Sims 4 announced that they are bringing out a new expansion pack completely focused on businesses and hobbies. It is called a Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack. Not the most creative or original by EA, but at this point, who are we surprised? I actually don't know when it is due to be released. My guess would be sometime later in February, early March. I'll put the date on the screen. Let's get into it because I feel like it's kind of been met with some very mixed responses. Obviously, I'm going to give out my usual disclaimer, which is this is not me hating on anybody part of the Sims 4 team or anything like that. But at this point, given that I've spent a lot of my money into the game, I feel like I can give an opinion. Anyway, I have made another little Google Docs, so they keep looking over there, that's why. But this video is going to be split into 3 main points. The first one is expansion pack versus game pack. The second one is get to work extension. And then the third point is disappointment in the hobbies department. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the trailer, let's get into it because these were the most common themes that I saw when I was looking through the comments both on YouTube and TikTok on what people were saying about the pack. So let's begin with expansion pack versus game pack. So this kind of stems into the kind of themes that I said in a lot of my other videos about overconsumption and equally my separate videos talking about different packs, and that is the fact that the expansion pack already looks like it just doesn't have enough features. It's looking a little... The features that it has doesn't look bad from what we can tell by the trailer, but at the same time they always do say that the trailers don't always reflect gameplay, and I think you have to keep that a little bit in mind because you kind of know that some of the features that are being introduced to us are probably either not going to work very well, they're probably going to be broken or break very easily, or they're just not going to be as fleshed out as what they seem in the trailers, which is probably the most common complaint of many packs. Let's be honest. It kind of seems that, you know, with Life and Death, loads receptive of it because it kind of seemed like there was loads of features, and there was loads of features in Life and Death. For me, they just weren't really detailed enough. Do you know what I mean? They just didn't really go into as much depth. Other than funerals, I will give them credit for the funerals, obviously, but I was kind of hoping that with Life and Death, with the kind of turn to making a pack that seems a little bit more fleshed out, that maybe EA will have learnt their lesson and gone down that direction, but alas, they have not. So here we are, clearly talking about another pack that is not fleshed out. Can it justify the £35 price point? Obviously, if you're American, that it's normally about $40, I believe. I think £35 is an extortionate amount of money. I don't really know why, but I didn't deepen it when I was a child. Like, I just never really thought about it. I was like, oh, £30, £35, that's fine. But as you get older, you kind of realise that actually, like, £35 is a lot of money, and you could get a whole new game. Sometimes you could get a whole couple of games for that price. Can this expansion pack justify £35? I don't know. I also couldn't tell by the trailer, so let me know if you've seen this about. I couldn't tell whether it came with a new world. My worry is that it either doesn't come with a new world or it's going to be a world that is very similar to Magnolia Promenade, and I'm not looking forward to that. Normally expansion packs do come with a world, so my guess is that they will have one. If they introduce something like malls, maybe my opinion will change, but I actually don't think they will. It does seem a little bland, which obviously businesses and hobbies as separate entities, I was going to say they are quite boring, but actually hobby is kind of like the opposite, isn't it? It's engaging, it's like something that you want to do, so it should be quite fun, but it does weirdly look a little bit flat. And given that this was an expansion pack that actually would appeal to me because I cried out for hobbies and activities and things you can do within the game, I don't know, this expansion pack should appeal to me, and I think it just doesn't. I've made the point of how well will this pack work. Some of the features that you can kind of see, particularly on the business side of things, I'm a little bit nervous about, because they kind of remind me of features that we had in For Rent, and some of the features of For Rent don't work very well. So I'm like, I have a feeling we're going to hit a lot of bugs with this expansion pack. I obviously can't say for sure. I don't know, but I just had that weird gut feeling that we're going to end up in a situation where it's not going to work very well. I'm happy to eat my words, and it does though. And I'm hoping it does. And I've kind of brought up the question of how can it be a hobby pack with 3 hobbies? Yet again, we've got a whole separate point on hobbies, so I'll get into that in a second. But I do think it's a little disappointing, but kind of sums up The Sims 4 that they've made an entire expansion pack about hobbies to only include 2 hobbies. I will say, when I was Googling the most popular hobbies, a lot of the hobbies that exist are already in the game, so I could understand a little bit maybe why they struggled with making a hobby pack. But I also think the problem is, because hobbies are done in a lot of other packs, I think the problem that we kind of see, and it's a bit of a common theme, is that they just aren't done very well. Like, they're not done very in depth. Like, obviously the only hobby that I feel like is really, really done in depth is like knitting. And even that, thinking about it, is, which is also, by the way, it doesn't work in the game at the minute. Like, knitting is very broken, which is great. Love that. Or at least it's broken in my game anyway, I should say that. And not all of it, but I'm not getting into it. Anyway, point is, it doesn't work very well. But I quite liked the introduction of Plopsy, which obviously is meant to be Etsy. I liked all of that. And I did think it was kind of fleshed out, but it was also £6 or £7. Actually, how much are stuff packs? I think they're more than that. I think they're about £8 in the UK. Either way, it's that sort of price point, which for a broken hobby is not worth it. So I do kind of understand why they maybe struggle with the hobbies, but I feel like they've basically shot themselves in the foot, because they've already introduced us to these hobbies previously, but because they're done so poorly, they should have waited basically and introduced them later on, is what I'm trying to say, but they didn't. Anyway, I also do think it could have been an opportunity for EA to have maybe done a bit of a revamp on some of the hobbies we already do have in the game, such as painting or reading. I'd always wanted them to like actually have like a reading skill and like things like that, because I feel like we have the bookworm trait and I recently played with it and it's so like lackluster. Like, it doesn't really do anything, because reading doesn't, I don't think it boosts their fun up, I think, a little bit, but it doesn't, like, I feel like reading is one of those things that you don't get your Sims to do very often, because it kind of doesn't do anything. And I would love the reading to actually be, because I love reading, it's a hobby of mine, I would love for it to be a proper thing. Anyway, let's begin with my second point, which is this just a get to work extension? Some people might see this as a positive, okay? You might see this as, actually, it's great because it's compatible with so many different packs. It kind of goes really well with City Living, For Rent, Get to Work. Like, it's so integratable. Is that the word? I think so. Into the game. However, it can also be a negative thing too. I do worry that this does feel like a bit of an extension. I have spoken about the fact that I have wanted a Get to Work revamp for a while, and the big reason I want this revamp is because obviously Get to Work is 10 years old at this point. The landscape of it has changed a lot, and I think they could have benefited by doing a little revamp, giving it a little bit of the reshuffle, I guess. But obviously EA are not going to do that, and instead they basically made a new pack which kind of does revamp Get to Work, but are going to charge you £40 or £35 for it, which is not ideal. I'm going to put the comment on the screen. But somebody basically did say that it feels like City Living and For Rent was like beta testing for this pack, which I kind of do get the impression of a little bit as well, particularly more like for rent and get to work. I feel like the packs are really similar. Now, obviously, I don't know how I feel about it, but I feel like the business side of things could have been easily integrated into for rent if you think about it, because it could have been, you know, for renting houses and also renting a business. So I feel like it could have been put into that pack. The hobby side of things, I do feel like could have just been its own. I feel like it could have been included in Get to Work if we think to it. I don't know. I feel like this pack kind of gave me Ambitions vibes on The Sims 3 a tiny bit. I feel like that's what they were kind of trying to do a little bit, but I don't think it's quite the same. I basically put as a point, ultimately it feels like things that should have been included in the Get to Work pack, particularly for the business side of things, I agree with myself, which is good because I'm saying it in a video. But yeah, it does kind of feel a little bit like we're getting a kind of pack that should have been included in other packs, which is not my favourite genre of expansion pack, when I feel like they've released a pack to try and make up for their cash grabbing, basically. Anyway, the third point, which I think is probably the most important point, and that is the disappointment in hobbies. I've seen this in a few comments at this point, which is people being like, how are you going to have a hobbies pack with 2 to 3 hobbies? So I think if you haven't watched the trailer, this is going to be a spoiler alert. So that is pottery making, tattooing, and candy making. From what I could see in the trailer, there might be more hobbies, but I doubt it, because I feel like they would have been included in the trailer. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there will be, but yeah, I don't think there will be. Now, I've made the point of where are the conventional hobbies? And I've put like drawing, colouring, like brewing, I don't know, that one might not be so conventional, like metalworking, that sort of thing, designing, hairstyling. Basically, where are like just like the normal kind of, where are the hobbies? Firstly, where are the hobbies? Secondly, I don't know, how many people out there are candy makers? You might argue the same thing about how many people draw or how many people brew things. But like, I feel like it goes back to the point that I was making earlier with like that we actually do have quite a lot of hobbies in The Sims 4. They're just kind of not done very well. I don't know if that's fair to say, but I just feel like they're not done highly in depth. So I feel like they probably have had to clutch at straws a little bit for the hobbies, which I understand completely. But then why make it into an expansion pack? Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's probably why they've had to do the business side of it. I think my main problem with this pack is that it just doesn't really feel like an expansion pack. It kind of just feels like a game pack. And to be honest, if it was a game pack, because how much are they? About £20? I would probably be a little bit more impressed by it, or a little bit more intrigued by it, because I would probably pay 20 quid for it, but I just don't see myself wanting to pay £35 for it, if I'm being completely honest, whether it comes with a world or not. I also just think we are now continuing the trend of EA basically trying to cash grab at any single point. But I do feel it's really interesting, and I feel like I noticed it more with this pack than I did like Life and Death and Love Struck, is that actually people are being a little bit more critical, I guess, of EA and what they are putting out, which I feel like with previous packs we haven't always seen that. Life and Death was kind of seen as a good pack initially. I feel like it kind of still is. I feel like most common consensus is that it's okay, it's good. It's one of the better packs we've had in recent times. I don't think this pack is going to continue that trend very well. And I think it's all down to the fact that EA are just happy to produce the bare minimum for a lot of cash. And I do think it's really interesting here that I believe the last quarter that EA had was the first time that they'd made a loss in quite a long time, which is very interesting. And I do wonder whether that is a bit, I mean, obviously it's not going to be directly just because of Sims, obviously, but I do wonder whether that some of that is from the Sims community actually being like, I'm not gonna buy the stuff that you are putting out. And obviously I talk a lot about this in my overconsumption video, so if you've not already watched that, I do implore you, is that the word? Go and watch it. You should go and watch it. You'll probably quite enjoy it. I do think it's really interesting. I think I actually uploaded that video at such a good time because I didn't know that obviously they were gonna put out the announcement video. So this kind of does feel like a really natural part two to that video. And I do think it's interesting. I thought we might have saw a bit of a change in EA, particularly because there has been a lot of people being quite critical about The Sims 4 lately. That I did think they would take that feedback on board. But at the minute, judging by the pack, I do not think that they have done that at all, which is just a little bit disappointing. I know that some people in the comments or that the trailer was really hoping that this pack would have like hair salons and like beauty parlors and that sort of thing, and I feel like something like that would have been such a cool addition to this pack, and yet from what we can see it's not included, which sucks. I do also quite like the addition of the tattoos, but like I don't really give my Sims tattoos that often. I don't personally think it's going to be something that I play around with that much. Like, don't get me wrong, I might play with it a little bit, but like I don't think it's something I'd play around with. I'm more intrigued by pottery making because that's like something I've been really wanting to do. But the other thing that I feel like they could have done is pottery painting. Now, whether they have actually done that and you just didn't really see it in the trailer, I don't know, but that would have been such a cool addition. That's really popular at the minute as well, so I guess it would have fell into some of the trends too. The business side, I feel like this pack just feels like, in general, a pack that we've kind of already gotten before. The business side of it is particularly disappointing given we have Get to Work, and it kind of just feels like a Get to Work 2.0. The hobby side of it is disappointing because it always was going to be disappointing because of how many hobbies we already have in the game. Do you know what I mean? So it was always going to be hard for them to come up with loads and loads of different hobbies, but I do feel like they could have done loads and they haven't, and it kind of just feels a bit like what I was saying in my other consumption video, that EA just don't really care. Whether that's the Sims team itself or just like EA, like I understand that the Sims team probably have deadlines and they probably feel quite pressured and all the rest of it, but I don't know, I just feel like it's not good, is it? It's not good. So anyway, I feel like that concludes today's video because I don't want to ramble on for too long. I feel like I've made a lot of similar points in my last videos, so I don't really want to ramble too much. But anyway, let me know your opinion. Is this EA just cash grabbing again? Please do let me know, because like I said, there is mixed responses. You have some people that are like, if you don't like it, just don't buy it, which is basically what I said in my overconsumption video. To be fair, if you don't like a pack, nobody's forcing you to buy it, but also don't feel pressured to buy it either. And that is my big point. Let me know what you guys think about this pack. Will you be buying it straight away? The other thing that I just want to really quickly mention, obviously, I think they did it with Life and Death and Love Struck, but they've started to do this thing where if you pre-order it in a certain amount of time, or if you buy it by a certain date, you get like 3 exclusive items, and the 3 exclusive items is like a lamp, I think, a statue, and like something else. And I just think that's one of the most bizarrest things, and 2, it's like the most unappealing items. Like, that doesn't make me want to go and buy the pack. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, I think in The Sims 3, I think with Midnight Hollow, if you bought Midnight Hollow, you got, like, a special, like, toy thing, I'm sure, or something like that, and that, like, made you want to buy it because you were like, oh, that's, like, a really cool item. I feel like the items that they give you in The Sims 4 is, like, so random that you're like, huh? Anyway, maybe that should be a whole separate thing within its entirety. Let me know, like I said, whether you're going to buy the pack. Do you think it looks good? Are you intrigued about the gameplay? Because obviously the gameplay trailer has not been released yet, so we do not know what that's going to be like. If you have enjoyed this little commentary video, as always, go leave a like, go subscribe if you haven't already, go leave a lovely comment, be nice in the comments. I always say this whenever I do commentary videos, just in case, and hopefully I will see you all next time. Goodbye everyone. Also, I sounded ill because I was. Okay, bye.